Ronda Swan, thank you so much. I'm very excited to have you on the show. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I've been excited to bring you onto the show, The Rabbit Hole, as you can probably tell by the name, where entrepreneurs go deep. I want to dig beneath the surface a little bit. You and I know each other very well. We're doing some business projects together. You are my go-to person when it comes to branding, marketing, PR. I ask a lot of questions of you. You are my guru in that space, and for a lot of people, obviously. But a lot of our conversations and the interviews we've done with each other before are very tactical, very business-like. Like, okay, what's step one? What should people do? Which is beautiful, which is wonderful. But what I like to do with this show is just, dig a little bit beneath the surface and see a little bit behind the brand, I guess.
Yeah.
And figure out a little bit more about the purpose and what drives you and stuff like that.
Well, I'm honored to be here. I really appreciate it. And I think that this is a great conversation. We tend to be, should we show up for people? But sometimes that depth of what really goes on isn't always chatted about. So
Exactly.
I appreciate you creating a space for that.
Thank you. So first question. So as I mentioned before, you're my branding, marketing go-to person. You're very well-rounded in that space and you've got a long history in that, and we can touch on that. But what are you known for? What is Ronda Swan known for?
Well, on the business space, I'm known for creating sexy brands and turning them into profit machines. However, I think I'm probably more so known for the person that gets shit done, that takes action, that's not afraid, that's fearless, that's courageous to really go for and hit specific goals. So I've been always literally a chameleon of business because I can foresee what is needed and what's going on. And it's really more of a visionary and why branding for me is just everything. It's like your whole life, right? For me, I look at people and go, I can see the aura of the brand. I can see the future where that brand could go. And it's because I think we all have such a soul inside of us that exudes the energy that turns into a brand that can create and change people's lives.
So is that an intuitive thing for you that can tap into?
It is, and it's funny because I don't usually, that's not the part of me that I share with people, that the reason why I know what I'm so good at is because I'm really intuitively feeling you and talking about you. And I
why do you not share that?
It's a really good question. Probably because most of my clients that come to me are rather high level and they're looking for something to get done, a respectful person, and they want to know that I know what I'm talking about. And it kind of makes me think like maybe that's my expectation for them. However, it could be a bit different. And
do you think it actually detracts from the core competency that you're trying to portray to them, that you have those depths to you? Do you think it detracts, or what is that?
I think that if I were to really talk about, when people talk in the airy-fairy space, I consider myself a spiritual realist.
Yes.
I get it. It's there. I'm connected to source. I channel intuition. I'm there. However, I don't talk about that. I don't share that. And when I do that, it's almost like I'm judging, because I think in my past, my family is Cherokee Indian. And my great-grandmother was a Cherokee Indian chief. She was like a medicine woman. And she would go, "You are the one. You've got the green eyes. You can change the world with, with your energy in your eyes." And it freaked me out when I was a kid. Like, it really did. Like, we would have like crazy ceremonies. There'd be like people flipping in the, just like literally talking in tongues, and it scared me. So I think, in fact, I don't think, I know, because I'm sharing this publicly, and I know I've put on this. As I grew up, I didn't want to be associated anymore with the dream catchers, the spiritual stuff, the feathers. I wanted to be completely different. And that's when I went so deep into getting my master's degree, my corporate, this is who I'm going to be. And I put this image around what I wanted to be like and what I thought others expected of me.
Yeah.
However, all that's always been deep inside of me.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So, and it's a very similar journey with mine as well. It's only really in the last few years that I've really embraced just sharing, this is who I am and this is what I've done. Very, very similar. But I feel as time goes on, more and more called to me integrating the two parts and having that be normal, right? Not any separation. And this is why I love this conversation because it's there and it's there for a lot of people. But you're absolutely right. With a lot of people, it's almost like they take it too far.
Yeah.
And then they're kind of living in the clouds and then they're not grounded.
Yeah.
And then they don't know how to connect that spiritual thing that they've got. They've got something magical maybe to teach people, but they're not grounded in the way that they approach that, right? So where's this middle ground? Where's this middle space where you can be?
Well, okay, so it's pretty interesting. I'm a Gemini, right? So I have two sides. Our Unstoppable Family brand was built based on our values and our story. It was like us traveling the world in a bikini, computer on your head, talking about everything, right?
Yeah.
And that grew immensely. And I, of course, was one of the forefronts on helping develop that brand story. So then when
How long ago was that?
Started 12 years ago.
Okay.
We started the Unstoppable Family brand 12 years ago while we've been traveling. And so that was like the persona. Well, about 5 years ago, right when you and I met, is when I wanted to break away from the freedompreneur, right? Impression or freedompreneur personality. Yeah. Not that I didn't like it. It's still who I am. I was ready to now take a new direction.
Is that because, and I don't mean to be judgmental.
Yeah, no, this is good.
In that space, in that world, that's where you're capturing the attention of the people who haven't yet created anything, right?
That's it.
And they're the ones who are most captive. They're the ones who are most desperate.
Yeah.
But they're also as a seasoned entrepreneur, they're at the entry level. They're at the entry level, and you're trying to escalate yourself. I had the exact same thing. Yeah. That's how we met, through the word freedompreneur. You Googled me. And
I used your quote
and
a presentation. And I did Google you. I Googled freedompreneur. Yeah. I grabbed a quote. I used it in a presentation. And there were two people staying at your resort. And they went, I was in Panama on the edge over the sea, crystal blue seas, doing a webinar. Lived on a tiny little island, Bocas del Toro, Panama. And I'm doing this webinar. And I put the Monty Hooke, and it was the one with the brick.
Did you have any idea who I was?
No idea.
Okay.
No idea.
Awesome.
And these people were on there and they go, Ronda, we are staying at Monty Hooke's resort right now, the one that you had in Ubud.
Yeah.
I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And so I reached out to you. I'm like, I'm having an event in Bali in 4 months. Yeah. You have to speak.
And what's interesting is at that exact same time, I wrote the book Business Hacker.
Right.
And I spoke about freedompreneur.
Yeah.
And what happened for me is unpacking all that information.
Yep.
I kind of realized it was almost like I got it out of my system. Here's a framework for people to learn from. But then I got the realization that I want to play a bigger game.
That's the same thing.
Yeah.
That's what happened to me. And so that is what happened. I mean, I really felt the shift. And so being a brand developer, right, and someone that wants to visualize a brand, I was ready to create that next level of the brand and take it from being the Unstoppable Family freedompreneurish brand to really being professional and someone that was seen as an expert in that field. And although I've already been in branding, developing brands for 15 years or 10 at the time. So I think it was probably my way of switching and elevating the positioning of the brand. However, right before we started talking, I was like, yeah, my show, I'm kind of ready to start doing other things and bringing in a new conversation into it.
Yeah.
So I think the pull is there for me as well.
Yeah. So can you unpack that pull, that drive? Like, can you describe that? Are you being called to something, like a legacy thing?
Yeah, I feel that, especially right now, what's going on in the world, I have always been able to use my voice to shift the way people think, right? Whether it was the way I raised my daughter, the way that we just, dropped everything, started traveling the world and still built multiple 7-figure businesses exclusively online. Like, people were like, what? This is not even possible, right? So I've always used my voice for change and for impact. And recently, I started to do my own podcast shows. I shifted the way I did marketing. And I started to feel that, I have more the world needs from me than me just talking about branding and building businesses. Yeah. That's just me. Like, if you and I could just sit and I could just talk about the extension of this brand and what we could do and where we could do and the PR and it, because it's fun. However, the soul inside of me of what I know I came from, which is probably my great grandmother's, pull from back in the day, is saying I deserve to speak more for the position of women, feminine leadership, and growth of the way the world needs to go.
Yeah, and it is a beautiful message, and you are a very inspiring personality, and you are a real example of what is possible when putting yourself out there and breaking paradigms. Like that's probably the one thing that I see about you is you're kind of rattling the cages of what is known as normal. Yeah. So on that, let's go back to, because the Unstoppable Family is probably, it's a massive legacy piece, right?
Yeah,
it's a massive legacy piece, and you get the attention of a lot of well-known, a lot of well-known speakers and industry experts, etc., who have kind of looked at that as a case study, right? So 12 years ago, you decided to embark on this. You had Hannah, your daughter was 1 year old at the time. Just turned 1 year. So tell us about that. Like, how did you make that decision?
Yeah, well, most people think, oh, congratulations, you traveled the world. You must have had a bunch of money in the bank, right? Yeah. I was completely opposite. So Brian and I met surfing in San Diego 22 years ago in the water, paddling up to each other. And then from there, we lived in San Diego and we bought our first home. San Diego real estate did very, very well in 05, 06, right? Or 4, 5, and 6, really well. The real estate market was booming. So I had a pull to never put a child in daycare. And that was it was a huge paradigm shift for me because here I am 30 thinking I'm being, groomed to run a massive corporation. I worked for a Fortune 100 company. I was a huge executive in this company. I was a division manager in GlaxoSmithKline Pharmaceuticals. So I was being groomed to run the whole Western division. I run $500 million in ad campaigns and marketing campaigns every quarter. Like it was major position and I wanted. And then one day I witnessed this woman put a baby in daycare and she was a 6-week-old baby. My boss that I wanted to be like is standing in front. This woman walks in the meeting 15 minutes late, and I'm sitting there just like Jane, and she's like, "You are late." And this woman's face just trembled, and her lip is shuddering, and she's like, "I'm so sorry. My 6-week-old baby was just dropped off at daycare." And she's like, "If you want to keep this job, you will be on time, and you'll pick up drop off your baby." And I'm like, whoa, like this whole shift. I don't know what it was. I don't know if men would have the same shift or not, but I went, fuck this. Yeah. Are you kidding? You're going to be that bitch? And I saw myself in the mirror and went, oh my gosh, I'm not doing this. So I went home right away and said to Brian, I'm quitting my job. I'm going to work online. I'm going to figure something out. And he's like, you got to be freaking kidding me. Like we just bought a 5-bedroom house, our second home. And that's why we have 5 bedrooms, so you can raise a family, but we need your income. Because he's a robotics engineer. I was executive, and we both did pretty well, 6 figures. And I said, no, I'm going to figure something out. And because of that drive, I started searching. And it was weird because I would never do this. I searched work-at-home mom. Yeah. This is when I was like, I will never have kids. I'm going to build a corporation. I was like, super hard ass. And I typed that in. And it was weird because this is back then. This is in 04 when the internet was around, but we weren't even really using email back then. Right? Like think about 04, no social. And obviously you could Google things, right? We're not even Google. I don't think it probably was like Netscape or whatever. And I just Googled work at home mom and all these crazy websites like, work at home. And the one said CEO income working from home. And I went, that's me. I'm in. Clicked on it and it was super plain website, like crazy pictures and stuff. And of a woman that was a waitress that had 4 kids that was making $40K a month. And I went, oh, you gotta be kidding me. All right, I'm gonna call this number because it was a call. It was like a website to a call, which is really funny. And I talked to this lady. I'm like, all right, work from home, making this kind of money. And it was a personal development company and you're reselling personal development products. And I said to Brian, I think I found something. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, I'm quitting my job. I think I'm gonna figure this out. And sure enough, he thought I was insane. And he's like, you're a smart lady, you have an MBA, you're executive in the company. What the heck are you talking about this internet thing? But I had just watched an interview with Steve Jobs. And this is when Steve Jobs was, Apple was really I had been around for a while, but this is like really when Steve Jobs was predicting trends, like what's going on in the market, what's going on in the world. And he said, if businesses are not aware of online space and they're leveraging that to market or build their business, they're going to be left in the cold. I was like, well, heck, if it's just starting now, why not jump in, right? Why not be in the front of the curve? And so I could just ride through it and learn. And that's what I did. So I just started learning Google Ads, 3-line Google Ads. And I'd sit my credit card on my lap, listen to Perry Marshall, learning how to do Google Ads. He was my guru, Perry Marshall. And I would just play stupid ads. The same one that I answered. CEO income, working from home. Don't believe us? Don't click. CEO. And then I had signs, like I had big, huge signs. I have a picture of it, in fact, with Hanalei, like a tiny baby. CEO income, working from home. Don't believe us? Don't call. I mean, it was ridiculous. But that's like guerrilla marketing back then.
Yeah.
But just from that alone, I started that company, quit my job 3 months later. Brian freaked out. And then about 3 months after that, I made $37K. I told him, I've done it. It's worked. I extended the credit like madness that we're living the Joneses. And then I just went for it. But it was tough because he was not in belief at all. So it's hard to go from corporate to calling people on the phone, asking if they're interested in a business opportunity or a way to change their mindset at that time. But here we are now. That's been 12 years. So when we built this company, and that was actually 15 years ago, and we got real cash heavy. So the house is sold, everything's great. I start this company, we're jamming, like I'm talking 50 to 100K a month. And then we got really cool because we met a friend that said, hey guys, if you got extra cash, I'm doing a big investment deal, golf course development in Flagstaff, Arizona. We're like, yeah, are you kidding? We were making all kinds of money. We're like, woo! So we invested real heavily, and within no less than 24 months, we had invested, thought we were going to, cash out. And instead, we lost everything. Very green, made $500,000 the first house, $500,000 the second house, gave all of that plus every nest egg, signed our name on 26 construction loans, $1 million construction loans, our name. And the guy used us, and he sucked all the money out of the construction loans and said, sorry. And the banks are like, knock, knock, swans. Construction loans are up. These are quarter-made homes. Oh. And yeah, so because of that is actually why we're traveling.
Yeah.
Because of the decision we had to make.
So if you could turn back time
yeah.
to that incident that happened where you lost everything,
yeah.
would you change it? Or would you go through that, knowing what's come out of the last 10 years or whatever?
Yeah.
Would you still allow that to happen? Would you be, another way of saying that is, would you be the same person and the same family that you are today without that circumstance?
Well, I mean, if somebody would have told us back then, hey guys, you're going to lose everything, but don't worry, because you're going to travel the world for 12 years, your kid's going to be awesome, you're going to inspire more people to live their dreams now, I would have went, you're absolutely insane. No, I'm not losing all that. There's no way, because even at the time, we were growing and thought we were amazing people. However, the stuff around us is what our identity was becoming. So I thought having all those things were going to make me a better parent.
Is that still remnants of being trapped in the matrix from the corporate life and being one of the Joneses?
Well, I think so, because even growing up, though, my family didn't have it all, right? It was always about money. There was always a problem. And I remember vowing, I will never make a decision based on money, because there were things that would happen where, like we wouldn't go places or wouldn't go to dinner because of, we wouldn't go to people's dinner parties or certain things, or there were people that were wrong because of the amount of money they had as I grew up. And I don't blame my family because it's all they knew. But I remember going, this is not okay. Like, I don't want to live like that. And I remember saying, I think I was like 16. I was like, I'll never make a decision. I even wrote it on a piece of wood and broke through it. And I wrote, I'll never make a decision based on a price tag.
Yeah.
And because I was so adamant about that. So I think that was part of it. I thought, well, the more successful I am, I'll have more money, so I don't have to have those thoughts. Right? And I don't have to have those thoughts, so I don't have to ever worry about it. But what happened, I think it evolved into corporate. The more you have, the more you get.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden the identity, the more the status that you've got. All of a sudden I'm driving Mercedes, and I'm barely driving them. And I got 2 of them now. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
this is not who we actually are. So when we lost it all, the world like blinked in front of our eyes, and we actually realized that we had become really shallow. And we didn't think that we were.
Yeah.
Like we didn't even know.
And had you not lost everything, you might be on the same, I mean, you might be filthy rich, but would you be the people you are now?
No.
Would you be inspiring people the way that you are with the deeper,
there's no
with that
way.
deeper message? Yeah.
Because I didn't even get, like I was still into personal development for the 3 years, really deeply, like Brian creating our perfect day and visualizing what we want. Like but I was also an athlete, right? So for me, visualization was like second nature. I think it, I get it, like I could see it, right? However, it was about the identity, and I didn't know much about that until now that we've gotten through this, is that we were so attached to what people thought about us with the stuff that we had. And then I thought that was what was going to make Hanalé's life better because I didn't have it. So I'm just trying to build up all this wealth and these like barriers around this child. And here we find out we're losing everything. Hanalei was 33 days early because I was so stressed out. And she was supposed to be born at home. And I called my doula. I'm like, whoa, my water's broken. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have this baby now. And she's like, I can't do it. I can't come. You have to go to the hospital. She's 3 days too early for me in California law to actually deliver her at home. And it's because my body was so stressed out because we just found out everything, was crashing down. And we got like literally Brian had a ring on his phone that was like, so we knew when the debt collectors were calling. Like it was your stomach would be sick, right? Like
it's like an anchor for
every time. And it came to the point where we're like, just screw the phones. Like I don't even want to turn off sounds of the phones because it was so bad. And I mean, I'm serious. I know people, it doesn't always sound that way to others. Like, oh, sure, you're standing in this big house, you have all these cars. However, when you're living up to the Joneses and your money is meeting what you're living up to, and your mortgage of the house is like 12 grand a month.
That never ends.
It never ends.
Just the houses get bigger.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was disgusting. Even consider like now, like to consider that we paid $12,000 a month just to walk into the door. There was no power, no Wi-Fi, like none of that. And I look back at it now and I go, how did it even happen? And how did we get to that point? But what happened is here's Hanalei. She's born now. She's in this beautiful room and I had painted beautiful angels and abundance, prosperity, right? It was gorgeous. And I'm holding this tiny baby in this pink fuzzy chair. And I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, I gave you this vow that I would never put you in daycare, and I'm getting ready to go back and get my job. And you're not even 6 weeks old, like that woman was. I'm thinking, oh man, something's got to happen. And I remember that moment going, no, you made a vow. You can make this happen and just live up to it. Because at that point, everyone was going, guys, get a job. Our friends, CFOs, CEOs of huge rip curl, like big companies, right? What's wrong with you? This is a fun game for 3 years, Rhonda. You proved your point. You quit your job. You retired Brian. Let's be smart here. We're going to make a plan for you guys. We're going to get you back on track. We're going to refi this house. We're going to short sell this, do this. And I went, no, I'm not doing it. We're not doing it. And that was a really tough decision. Brian and I both had to go, okay, what are we really all about? And then the book 4 Hour Work Week came out, and Tim Ferriss just gave us that idea just to take a mini vacation, a mini retirement. So we're like, what if we just take 2 years, get our heads straight, travel the world? Like we're already working online, so I think we can figure it out a little bit. Our brains were a mess at that point. We couldn't sell anything anymore. So we knew we had to create some gaps, but what if we did it? And that's when we both decided on June 5th, 2 days after my birthday, in 2008, that we were going to liquidate everything we had, sell every home, and we had to file bankruptcy. It was the first time that the system actually said, Swans, you are 100% able to write all of this off. We won't charge you a dime because you were frauded. Like we actually were able to go, we got rid of the home, we got everything we had. All we had left were paintings and things for our wedding. And sadly, and Hanalé's baby stuff, we liquefied it all. I had to have an ego check. I liquidated, put everything, fire sale it on my lawn. And this is in La Jolla. Deepak Chopra drove by our house. Frank Kern drives by our house to go home. And here we are like, woo, you got my glasses, I got my lighting, I got baby strollers, bugaboos, those stupid $1,000 strollers. Like, who does that stuff? It was so stupid. But at the time, we thought that's what we needed to do. So we liquidated it all. We sold $12,872.62 to our name. That's what we had. Like, we had it. We didn't want to put it in the bank because the bank kept stealing money out every time money would go in because they were just, like clearing it for taxes, clearing it. We're like, we got this. So that was in June 5th. From June 5th to November 25th when we left, we got rid of it all, sold the house, walked out the door, gave the dogs away, and got on a plane November 25th, 2008, and have never looked back. It'll be the 12th year. We're starting the 13th year this November.
So besides the obvious amazing story.
Yeah, like really short answer.
No, it's amazing. It's a very inspiring story because there's the obvious courage there. There's the obvious courage of breaking the mold, doing your own thing. But one of the biggest things that I heard there was having the integrity to keep to your own vow. And I think this is a really important message for people because one of the things I think is completely underrated is for people generating success for themselves is self-esteem. But where self-esteem comes from is by you saying you're going to do something and following it through.
Yep.
That's where self-esteem comes from.
Yeah, just
and that's where self-belief comes from.
Yeah.
Because people will say, how do you create success? Oh, just believe in yourself. Well, fucking hello, like no shit.
But how?
How? And that is like such a beautiful example. Yeah. And that I have to assume has also laid the platform for who your family is now and who Hanalei has bloomed into.
Wow.
And just for the audience, look into who is Ronda Swan. She's got her own fashion label. She speaks around the world. She's just turned 13, and she's very inspiring. She's very tapped in, and she's very creative, and that is by virtue of the way that you guys have lived your lives. And I'm going to say it's by you guys holding yourself to those standards, right? Yeah. Because there's massive integrity in that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the one thing that we really focused on is I didn't even learn about integrity until I was like 30, which is really weird to think because now it's everything about what I do. I remember it's just those little things. You say, yeah, I'll be there, but you don't show up. Or I'll do that, but you just don't do it.
Yeah.
And so we went to, have you ever heard of Landmark Forum?
Yes, I've done Landmark Forum.
You have.
I've done the Advanced.
Same.
I've done the Self-Expression Leadership.
Right?
Yeah.
So you know this.
That one's a good one because it just kind of slaps you in the face with integrity.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was so pissed at this guy. Life is empty and meaningless. You're a meaning-making machine. I'm like, bullshit. You don't even know me. Like, you don't know me. I was this way. And he's like, you know what? You're full of yourself. And he's like, I bet you don't do half the things that you say you're going to do. And although you've achieved this, achieved that, I'll tell you, I sat there, I was furious, like flaming hot, right? Like, I want to beat this guy's ass. However, he changed my life for the good. And I'll never forget that moment. The big thing that happened, I stood up. So he's, they're nailing you down all the time. I stood up and I wanted to ask a question, right? And he had already broke me down. So I thought, I'm ready for this guy. I'm coming, I got a question. And I really didn't have it well thought out, and I just wanted to say something. And he goes, I have no idea what you're talking about. Did you even think about the outcome that you wanted my answer to be? You just asked me a bunch of open-ended statements. Sit down until you really know what you're asking so you don't waste my time, you don't waste anyone else's time. And I was like, holy shit, this guy does not like me. I was ready to go home. I'm crying, right? And I sat in that space because I made the commitment to stay. I wanted to leave. And then at night, Brian and I had a conversation like, that fucking guy just really showed me up. And he's like, yeah, how are you going to take that? And I was like, you know what? I think he's right. I use my voice just because I'm trying to show other people.
It's the mask that you put on to prove yourself to the world.
Because that's all I was trying to do as I grew up. I just wanted to prove to my parents that I could do something. Like my mom, my dad left, my mom left him when she was 20, big drug addict. My mom was very, very young. She didn't have her life under control, so I was just trying to help her. Mary's my father, who's amazing stepdad. But I was always trying to prove, because they were always so busy trying to make money.
Yeah.
Life was hard. I was an only child, and I have 2 more siblings. So all the time, I'm like a top athlete right now. I'm in the women's U.S. softball team. I'm doing great things. I was always trying to prove. And I realized, because of that moment from that guy, that I was always just trying to impress everyone, or be on stage and look at me. So that's how I was getting love. The more I was able to show.
And there's no end to that, because that's empty.
It's empty, and it becomes part of your personality that you think you need to be for people.
Yeah. One of the things not that we're advocating Landmark, but one of the things that I got out of Landmark is I was very, in my 20, I did it, when was that? 12 years ago, and probably around a similar time. And I had just lost my business with a global financial crisis, and I was working for a property company, and I didn't realize it, but I was very cocky, right?
Right.
I was confident, but I was cocky. And what I realized out of Landmark was that was my strong suit, they call it. And it was the mask that I was putting on. It's like this confidence, and people thought I was arrogant, but I never really saw, or if people told me I was arrogant, I didn't really care, because I was arrogant, right? So, but what I got out of it, besides a relationship back with my father, which was the most important thing out of any of it, was that I got this insight to what that mask is. But I dropped I lost all my confidence, right? I lost all of my confidence. So I couldn't even do any sales anymore. I couldn't talk to women. I had nothing. I was gone. I lost all my ego. So everyone was saying, "Oh, you're so soft and so soft now." But I had nothing, right? Because I dropped all of it.
Right.
But then when I did the advanced course, something switched, and one of the leaders said to me, you can have those things. You can be confident. You can be arrogant, as long as you own it. Yeah. As long as it doesn't own you.
That's it.
And then I probably heard that 1,000 times before, but that time it just dropped in, and from that time, it's I can have that softness. I can have that arrogance when I need to, and I'm like that. People still think I'm arrogant, but I know
people still think I'm a big mouth, and I'm like, I am.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing it for you. It just makes me excited.
Yeah,
I get excited when I do it.
It's different when you have the conscious awareness of it, and you're in control of it.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you on this topic. You're known to all the people around you as a massive go-getter. You're seemingly, from the outside looking in, switched on most of the time, right? Is that a fair assumption? Okay. And that's inspiring. Whilst that's inspiring,
it's also scary.
I also have to, whilst we're talking about this of strong suits and what controls you, how much of that is you being pulled from purpose, right? And how much of that is just remnants of the old ego identity who's trying to prove something to the world? Is that something you've looked at for yourself?
Yeah.
Do you have a balance of that? Is this a conversation that you have with yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it comes down to when we actually really do own who and what we are. Because for me, I'm just freaking excited about life.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
That's
truly excited. I'm oh, this is amazing, right? And when I say this, it's so truthful, because I love amethyst. It's a great gift for my family. I'm wow, what a great, I just truly am interested in and excited about so many things. And it's come off where people are like, oh, she's just fake. Someone actually recently said this, and it bothered me for about a day. They're like, oh, Ronda Swan, she's just so fake. She just talks the things that she wants us to hear. And someone told me, and it hurt me inside, because I'm such a true, genuine person. However, I'm so hard. People see me as just being hard, that they don't realize how soft I am.
Yeah, exactly.
So I really care about everyone. So when I give someone a compliment, it's because I'm I really mean it. And that is, it can become a challenge at times.
Yeah, and because if you're in your circle, we know that, I mean, I came to an event that you had the other day, and we're doing breath work and meditation, and it's a beautiful experience. And you invite people into your home and like put food on, and it's like, I mean, you're the most generous, soft people that I know, right? Very, very beautiful people. But yes, probably for those that aren't inside your circle, what they see is probably a hard-assed, all-action, non-stop. And because you've got this background as an athlete, and you know, you still have that embedded in there, I can imagine you get misunderstood, right?
A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, those that really know me and enjoy me, it's fine. And I grew up really having to always see that and wondering why I really couldn't get along with women or girls. It's just because I'm so driven, right? And they just didn't understand it. Until now, obviously, I always say at your 40s, you just kind of get clear. You don't give a fuck what people think about you anymore, right? It's been a lot easier.
Yeah.
But it's true. It's like but your question was, you know, am I always switched on and do I shift? I am extremely grounded. I've been practicing stoicism, just really seeing how I navigate instead of reacting, how I navigate through situations. And my visual is that I'm in a lion's den and all the lions are always moving. So although my persona and my voice can be quite loud, I'm navigating through situations where I'm not going to wake the lions. It doesn't mean not using my voice. It means using my voice with a calm yet poignant, on purpose communication. And although I get excited, when I focus on what I want to really connect with someone, it's been so different recently, right? Because I'm now able to really go to that space. Whereas I probably didn't have that before, right? I'm just naturally really super excited about stuff. But when I'm by myself, I'm almost like I feel like I'm an introvert because I've spent almost all my days in my office, either looking at things, reading, writing, planning. So I really am not always talking to people. So when I'm on a camera, I'm like, what's up, guys? Because that's kind of like my online persona. Yeah. And, you know, I don't usually go, okay, today doesn't feel good for me. There's nothing wrong with that for people. However, I feel that I have a bit of a mission to help bring people into the space. Like, yeah, I get that way, but fuck it. Okay, fine. Get through it, right? And that's just kind of my hard way of handling things.
Yeah. But there's nothing wrong with that at all, because, and I'm a little bit the same. Like if I'm going to mentor somebody, I'm kind of for the throat.
Yeah, right.
And some people can't handle it, and that's fine. You can disappear. But for those who can handle it, it's massively impactful
and transformational, like quickly.
And the relationship I have with them is
so tight.
Yeah,
it's the same. Yeah, I mean, and I have found challenges along the way with who I am as a personality, and just who I truthfully am to help others. And what's funny is I see people showing up that's not their true authentic self, right? So they're like almost posting, like, whoa, you're not wrong here. Like, this is okay, but let's tap into where your downfalls are so we can open that and help you be better. Yeah. And the people will show up because they almost want to impress you, but that's not what I'm there for them for, right? I'm a mirror for someone to see really who they are for themselves. And that's really been part of my zone of genius, though, is seeing such greatness in people and keep pulling it from them. So and it scares them.
Yeah. So is that gift that you have in seeing that that thing in other people, like what is stopping people from stepping into their greatness or seeing themselves in that light where, you know, is it all self-love? Like, I mean, what is it?
You know, I think it's that people are believing the bullshit that they've been told all their life. And they're always, it's this, I didn't even know what the name of it was, but it's imposter syndrome, right? Where you're doing really well, but then you all of a sudden go, no, I'm not good enough, or why should I be that one? I can't do that. And all of a sudden they start second guessing themselves constantly. And then they never do the thing that they're supposed to do. So now you're in a pattern. You go from, yes, I believe in myself, I'm doing the things, I've got integrity, I'm doing it. And then all of a sudden you achieve too much. And then all those eyeballs that are watching you, see, they're no longer going, yeah, you can do it. They're now going, oh, you think you're better than me. You think you can do but more than me. And so you're seeing them as not now your cheerleader, because most people do stop becoming your cheerleader when you're doing quite well, and it's quite unfortunate. And so instead of going, I see what you're doing, listen but be skeptical, like it says in the 5 agreements, that there's always a story behind the way people treat you, and they'll stay on that path. And so people get this imposter syndrome, and they start becoming more small, or they stay inside.
Yeah. Here's an interesting insight that I share with people is that, and you're probably the same, I rub shoulders with, some pretty high level people doing, hundreds of millions of dollars, even billions of dollars in business. I've never met a single person, not a single person at any level, who has their shit figured out.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Every one of us has these probably daily conversations with ourselves about, am I doing the right thing? Am I on purpose?
Yeah, is this going to work? Like, are people going to care about this podcast? Like,
the only difference is that the scale is different.
Yeah.
The scale changes, but the conversations are still there. And, the practices that I include in my life, or you include in your life, are supportive of just navigating that.
Yeah.
But to try to, people think that there's a place to get to. Like, I'm going to do some personal development and I'm going to arrive somewhere.
Yeah.
There's no place to arrive to. And when people can realize that it's just a never-ending journey of navigating, well, you can find some peace in that, because there's nothing to make yourself wrong about.
Right.
If there's always going to be something to figure out.
Well, and I think the difference is that our level of threshold on how we handle circumstances and situation just gets a lot smaller, right? So people think, oh, you can handle everything. You can get through that. You're unstoppable. You lost everything. You've done it again. And it's like, yeah, but it wasn't easy in the beginning. However, every time it kept happening, because things will keep happening, life isn't always just sunshine and roses. And I think that's what happens. People look from the outside and they're like, oh, you guys got it all together. Stable family, everything's working out for you.
Yeah. You're so on purpose, Monty. You found your purpose.
Yeah, right? Like, well, actually, no. Every single day, I'm like,
still figuring it out.
I still do this? Is this right? Like, am I doing the right thing? And right, and so it just gets, the doubt gets smaller, the voice gets more quiet, and allows you just to keep pushing through. And then it just goes away because you're like, I'm not doing that anymore. But the next comes up, and I think that's where people get confused when they see someone at a higher scale than them. I can't be like that because I'm not quite there yet. However, they're already there.
Yeah.
They're already actualized.
I don't know who's the quote. Is it Jim Carrey? And he's got that quote about, I wish everybody could, feel like being rich and famous to realize that that's not the answer.
That's not the answer.
Like you see with famous people all the time, like they implode, and like nobody's got their shit figured out.
Yeah.
And the thing about purpose, and what I say about purpose, is because people are so desperate to find their purpose, because it's such a prevalent conversation now, especially with emerging entrepreneurs. It's like, live your purpose, find your purpose, monetize your passion, monetize your purpose, all this kind of thing. But your purpose is fleeting. It's changing. Yeah. It's changing all the time. And people are so desperate to articulate what their purpose is that it becomes, they start looking in all the wrong places. And I think the way I explain it is, bring purpose to what you are doing. Like, maybe there is a higher meaning. There is a higher calling for you, but don't be so desperate to find that. The way to channel into that is to bring purpose to what you are doing in every moment, and that will bring you closer to that.
I'm with you on that one, because I think most people are always seeking, and that's why, like, in my work with development of brands, I'm like, well, do you love what you're doing right now? Should we really brand this? Is this really what it is? Instead of branding that, because that's more like a product or a service that you do, let's brand you. Like, what do you care about? What are your values, right? And then people start to see, wait, I actually am, whatever I do, it's coming through me, right? So the values of who you are and what you're being, your true authentic self, is this service.
And then you get you're in alignment with whatever the vehicle is, or whatever the tool is, or whatever the.
So we're getting a more quality, and we're seeing it more often as well. We're getting a higher quality service, or higher quality product from someone, or just someone that's really showing up in a different way, right? And I think that's really where the world is shifting, especially on the conscious level. There's a lot going on in the world, right? We all know this. However, those of us that get it. They're more self-actualized, if you will, knowing that that's not happening to us. It's happening for us so that we can make a better decision.
Yeah.
I'm seeing the sword, and it is sorting, right? And all of us, we're all here in Bali. We're not talking about this stuff every day at all. In fact, ever.
There's no toilet paper
Yeah,
debacles here.
sure. Well, we got the master blasters in Bali anyways. Who needs paper?
Yeah. So let me ask you a question about what supports you in terms of your daily rituals, your practices, whatever it is you do every week, every month, especially daily, to support who you need to show up with the energy that you bring into life.
Yeah, I'm very ritualistic. So every morning I wake up typically between 3 and 4. And I do my rituals a little bit different because I really enjoy that moment. Like if I wake up at like say 3:30 and it's just a natural alarm, I lay in bed and I just give instant gratitude to the things that I absolutely love, right? Get my mind in the right space. And then I get up and I get jamu, turmeric, right? That is like, I cannot start my day without my jamu. It's like coffee for most. So it's my jamu. And then I do the turd walk around my house, which is feeding my turtles.
Okay.
You know my turtles, right?
The turtles in the swimming pools. Yeah.
So I come down and I do the turtle walk and feed the turtles, and then from there I either swim or I will do a yoga at the top deck. It's usually swim, yoga, and then I'll do my boxing or walking. Every other day we do something different. And after that I do a meditation. And so before I start my day, which is typically because my USA clients, I usually start getting myself ready around 8 and I start at 9. I do about a 15 to 25 minute meditation. And I've been using this really cool app called Sync Tuition. It's very, very cool. And that's like my ritual. Like if I don't do those things every morning, I don't feel like my day starts properly. Same thing like my Monday, I have a CEO day. If my CEO day does not start and I go to Istana on Monday.
So CEO day is just your like self-care.
It's my total self-care. There's no clients. I still do my morning ritual, which is from about 5 to 7 a.m., right? I get that, all the jamus, the turd walk and all that stuff done. And then we go right to Istana, which is the cold pools. And like they close the cold pools at 11. So the other day I had a podcast on Monday. And this guy kept asking me questions. And I'm like, yeah, so I'm just getting ready to start my CEO day. And he kept asking me questions. I'm like, man, you got to get the hint, brother. So I finally said, hey, it's CEO day. The cold plunge pools are closing in about 35 minutes. If I don't go, I won't have a great week. Thanks for having me on my show. I got to go. And I literally got on the bike, hauled ass over to Istana, instantly got in a spot. And was like, oh, yes. Oh my goodness. Cold pool, spa, cold pool, like for 25 minutes. And I was so different of a person. I was like, I was trying to get out of the house. I was really edgy and pissed off at the guy a little bit. Great guy, but you're going to fuck up my week.
And I think this is a really beautiful lesson because we're so trained to take massive action, be hustlers, and it's not detracting from that at all. And this is the way I live my life now is I spend literally 4 or 5 hours a day in the gym, in saunas, cold pools, getting massage. Like it's like
required.
it's just sharpening the axe.
Yeah.
It's sharpening the axe. And I think so many people get lost in that hustle and that it ends up becoming an addiction, which becomes very hard to break. And actually what you might find is if you took 1 hour out of that hustle and spent that meditating, like the impact that would have in the other 9 hours, 11 hours, 13 hours, whatever that you are working, like you would get twice as much done.
Exactly. I didn't used to believe that though, like at all. I mean, I was go, 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 go. And until I really understood the impact that the stopping had, I'm so much more productive. I can get, 2 days worth in 4 hours because you're just focused. You're just on point, exactly. And you feel good, right?
Yeah. And I think the other part of that is as well as having, showing up with that, being in a state of, massive focus and being able to really zone in and be mindful in your work is by taking time out of your day, by breaking the paradigm of, okay, I've got to be the one to be moving all the time.
Yeah.
When you can break that pattern, like for me, it's like I've gone from working 12 hours a day to working maybe 4 hours a day. But what that has done for my paradigm by shifting that balance is I have to put people around me. Like my paradigm is I'm still going to scale. I'm still going to keep, but it's now I have the capacity to make things move around me instead of me being the one to move. And the way to tap into that is that self-care. It's those practices. And like you said, having the integrity to hold yourself to do those things. There's no point saying I'm going to meditate every day and not doing it, because it will massively, it will change everything.
Well, it's the promises that you give yourself. This is where self-belief comes from. If you promise I'm going to lose weight, you promise I'm going to do this, but you keep not doing it, then you're going to go, I'm doing this, I'm so excited about it. No, you're not, because you didn't do that before. That's where belief comes from. And I think that's where people don't realize it's all these stories that they keep telling themselves that they're going to do and they break. Then when they're finally excited about something, their subconscious internally says, you're never going to do it.
Exactly.
You never did it before. And this is where the paradigms start to shift. And I think people become more aware once you just actually start doing what you say.
Yeah. Ronda, this has been awesome, very insightful to get into your world a little bit. And I think people are going to get a lot of value in understanding the depths of you and what brings you to life, because there's a lot there that people can take away. I have one last question. Well, before I get into the question, I just want to acknowledge you for showing up in the world the way that you do, inspiring so many people, and being an example for especially that integrity piece. And I think your legacy is you're definitely going to have a legacy around this unstoppable family, because who Hanley is becoming is, you know, like it. I have so much belief in the world, what's possible for the future, if the next generation are like Hanley. Yeah. Right. So I acknowledge you for that. If you had a one-time superpower to have mental telepathy, to tap into the minds of every single person in the world, where the language was translated, you could give one message to every single person in the world, what would that message be?
So one message to all of the gurus, because I'm like seeing all the faces. I'm seeing Martin Luther King, I'm seeing Gandhi.
Every human living now and past.
My message to them is to look at yourself in the mirror every day and give yourself love and gratitude for the work that you're doing right now, and to know that you are worthy and the world deserves you on this planet. Give yourself a big virtual hug.
On that note, Rhonda, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm very grateful to have you on the show, and see you soon.